let's get to this tiebreaker because it's going to happen. It came up a couple of times when there was the East and the West, but it's going to come up even more now. So I'm just going to turn this to you for a second, Caleb, and explain this tiebreaker to me. And then at some point, I'm going to drop in the what the H element because there's part of it that I think is very comical.
Okay, so I do think the way they start this makes sense. So the first tiebreaker, head-to-head. Totally fair, right? Totally legitimate.
Yes.
All right. Second one, record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams. Again, makes sense, right?
I'm good with that.
All righty. This is where I start to have a problem. Record against the highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among the tied teams.
Oh, okay. I guess you've got a problem with that one?
Yes, because the one that I'm about to name should be higher than that. You ready for the one I'm about to name?
I am.
Cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among tied teams. That should be third because that is schedule strength. That should take precedent over your record against just the highest placed conference opponent because this is the thing I always have a problem with schedule strength, Dave. Schedule strength isn't just comparing how you both did against the best team one day. It's also who had a more group. It's one thing to get up to play Georgia. It's another thing to have to week after week get up to play a good team week to week, isn't it? Maybe not Georgia, but after you got Georgia, you got to go play, I don't know, you're playing Oklahoma and the other team's playing Vanderbilt. Yeah, maybe you both play Georgia, but having to get up for Georgia and then having to go play Oklahoma is a heck of a lot harder than having to play Georgia and then having to go play Vanderbilt.
I think Kentucky has had a negative effect on Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's had its own problems, but Kentucky, that used to be recruiting week. So the fact that you actually have to prepare for them and it is a physical game, yes, I see what you're saying. In the SEC, there's not a significant drop down in talent-wise unless you're playing, Vanderbilt?
Yeah. And well, the bottom 5 teams that we named in the last segment. And
but they're still more, but I would argue they're still more talented than all but 2 teams in the Big Ten. Take out Vanderbilt, I would take the bottom of the SEC versus all but 2 of the teams.
The SEC is deeper than the Big Ten, I agree. But do you think Florida would finish ahead of Penn State, Oregon, or Penn State or Oregon? You think Florida would finish ahead of Penn State or Oregon, Dave? Come on.
Maybe I exaggerated just a little bit, but I want to get to the final.
Not even Iowa or Wisconsin. They wouldn't finish ahead of them either.
Okay. I want to get to the final, though. Are we to the last
one? No.
Okay.
We got 2 more. Now, by the way, I think the cumulative conference, it's never going to get this far because once you get to schedule strength, it's over. But okay, I don't like this one either. But this one does benefit Tennessee, this tiebreaker. Capped relative scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. So margin of victory is going to be a factor. Meaning, you know how Josh Heupel is. If it ever gets that far, Tennessee's got an advantage, man.
Well, they do.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think you believe in margin of victory either because of teams play differently. But
okay, now do we know what it's capped at?
I don't know what it's capped at. No.
Now, how much is this? Now, Georgia, I don't think it's going to be in a tiebreaker, but how much does this hurt a team like Georgia that relies on defense?
A lot. I think that's why I don't like it. That's why I don't like it at all. And I don't think it's fair. I mean, Tennessee fans should be happy, but honestly, I'm not a fan. Teams win differently.
Are they thinking to themselves, let's make margin of victory so there's more scoring and it's more exciting because scoring equals ratings?
Possibly. By the way, I love how on the message board I've been called a commie and a libertarian within 5 minutes. Okay, those are opposite political spectrums. That's great. But here's the problem with it. Say one team goes to overtime and wins by 7. The other team wins off a field goal or off 1 point in regulation. The overtime win is going to have greater margin of victory than the team that won in regulation.
Well, yep. I mean, they're not going to. I don't think they're going to get to that point where they're determining how they win games. But I'll give you a great example. When was the Miami beatdown in Neyland Stadium? It was like
2002.
That 26-13 or something like that.
26-3.
Okay, 26-3. Okay, Miami could have embarrassed Tennessee. That was a much better team. If they wanted to, they could have scored more points. They took their foot off the gas. Caleb, I believe that's the gentlemanly way to play. So if Josh Heupel is up 20 points on a team and he thinks that margin of victory can help by scoring an extra touchdown or two, that to me is on the SEC, and that is not promoting what I think is a sportsmanlike product.
I totally agree. By the way, the other one, Georgia 2022, they could have beaten Tennessee 44-13 if they wanted to. They took their foot off the gas to win 27-13. By the way, but that's the last one before the tiebreaker you hate, because we got to lay into that for just 1 second.
Okay, I love this one.
Random draw of the tied teams. The draw sticks, man.
Random draw. I hope they need to broadcast that like the college football playoff and a playoff committee selection shows. And they need to have that with the straws and have the coaches there and show the true disappointment on some of their faces. But I wonder if some of them would rather not make the SEC championship game.
That's exactly where I was going. If you're in a tie to play for the SEC title, is it safe to say, Dave, you're a lock for the college football playoff and probably even host a home game in the college football playoff?
Yes. So why wouldn't you want to skip it? I can see that.
Why wouldn't you want to skip it? By the way, which is why maybe you don't want to run up the score. Maybe you want to sit on the lead because you don't want to win the tiebreaker, because you don't want to play for the SEC title, because you don't want to have to play that extra game before the college football playoff. Told you guys they were going to kill the SEC title game and kill the value of it. I didn't do it. Don't blame me.
Okay, I really hate agreeing with you on that, but something we can definitely agree on: the Fire Opals of Rick Terry Jewelry Design are for you. Affordable game day jewelry. Check them out. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Man, I can't tell you enough about them. RickTerryJewelry.com. Certainly check them out on Kingston Pike.